Imagine this. Your child is bright, curious, creative, maybe even gifted in certain areas. Storytelling, imagination, building, reasoning. And yet, when it comes to reading, writing, or math, they hit a wall. They try, they focus, they concentrate, but the letters flip, the numbers don't stick, the words blur, or the instructions just don't translate into written expression. And as parents, we wonder, are they being lazy? Are they distracted? Are they not trying hard enough? Or is something else happening inside their brain? Here's the truth that might change everything for you. Specific learning disorders have nothing to do with intelligence, effort, or motivation. A child with dyslexia, dysgraphia, or dyscalculia can be highly intelligent and yet struggle deeply with traditional academic tasks. The problem isn't the child. The problem is that the brain learns differently. A specific learning disorder, often shortened to SLD, is a neurodevelopmental condition where the brain processes certain types of information in an atypical way. It affects foundational learning pathways, reading, writing, spelling, mathematical reasoning, even though the child may excel in reasoning, creativity, spatial perception, or oral communication. And the heartbreaking part? Many children with SLD go through their early school years believing they are behind, not smart, or bad at learning. Meanwhile, the real issue is that they learn differently, not less. Parents often miss the signs, not because they aren't attentive, but because these struggles are often masked, compensated for, or hidden behind clever coping strategies. Some kids memorize words instead of decoding them. Some avoid reading aloud. Some rely on visual memory. Some guess at words based on context. They survive academically through adaptive effort until the demands exceed their coping. Before we go deeper, I want to ask you something. Have you ever noticed your child struggling with reading, writing, or math, even though their thinking skills seem strong in other areas? Comment below with what you've observed. Your experience may help another parent feel less alone and more informed. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the Parenting Blueprint, where we dig into the real psychology and science of raising confident, well-supported children. Now here's the key shift in perspective. A child with a learning disorder is not failing school. School is failing them, because traditional systems are built for one learning style. But human brains come in many learning styles. And when a child is forced to learn in a way that contradicts the wiring of their brain, frustration rises, not because of lack of effort, but because of neurological mismatch. To understand specific learning disorders, we need to look at how the brain processes information. Learning is not one general skill. It is a network of microprocesses. Reading, for example, isn't just seeing words. It's recognizing letter shapes, connecting them to sounds, blending sounds into meaning, accessing vocabulary, and retaining comprehension, all simultaneously. Most brains automate those steps, but in a child with dyslexia, the wiring that connects visual input with phonological processing works differently. The brain may see the letter but not link it firmly to the sound, or it may process sounds but struggle with sequencing. It's not a failure, it's a processing difference. Similarly, in dysgraphia, writing isn't simply put your thoughts on paper. The brain must coordinate motor control, letter formation, retrieval of spelling patterns, spatial organization, punctuation, and structure. A child may have beautiful spoken language, but when asked to write, everything jams. The thoughts are there. The output pathway is blocked. And in dyscalculia, math isn't just do the numbers. The brain must understand quantity, patterning, spatial reasoning, symbol recognition, and memory of steps. Some children understand numbers conceptually, but cannot translate that understanding into calculation. Others can count verbally, but don't feel numerical relationships. Again, not inability, difference. Here's something important. SLDs are not caused by poor teaching, lack of exposure, too much screen time, or laziness. They are neurological. They are inherited around 40 to 60% of the time, and they often run silently in families. Maybe dad was bad at spelling, mom hated math, grandpa could never remember written instructions. These weren't personal failings. They were patterns of brain processing. Now let's talk about the emotional landscape. A child with an unrecognized learning disorder often begins absorbing painful conclusions. I'm slower than the others. I must not be smart. Something is wrong with me. Everyone else gets it but me. I'm trying so hard and it still doesn't work. And here's the tragedy. Many children with SLD actually have above-average intellect, problem-solving skills, abstract reasoning, creativity, intuition, empathy. But they live in a system that prizes one narrow form of learning and penalizes others. The earliest signs usually show up around preschool or early elementary years. Subtle confusions, fatigue during academic tasks, avoidance, resistance, emotional responses. But many parents mistake these signs for personality. They're just dreamy. They're just sloppy. They're just disorganized. They're just distractible. They're just not trying. But here's the truth. Children want to succeed. If a child consistently struggles despite effort, something deeper is happening. Think of it this way. If a child trips every time they run, you wouldn't say, try harder. You would check their gait, balance, coordination. If a child squints at words, you don't say, focus more. You check their vision. The same applies here. When a child struggles with reading, writing, or math, they don't need blame. They need understanding. So, let's talk about what these learning differences actually look like in real life, because they rarely appear as a child saying, I can't do this, or my brain works differently. They appear in tiny, everyday behaviors that at first glance seem ordinary, harmless, or even personality-driven. Until you begin to recognize their pattern. You may notice that when your child reads aloud, they skip small words like a, the, of, or and, because their brain is scanning for meaning and glossing over structure. Or they may guess words based on context instead of decoding the letters, seeing horse and reading house, or seeing family and reading farm. These aren't random mistakes. They show that reading is a cognitive estimation game, rather than a sound symbol decoding process. When faced with unfamiliar words, they hesitate, freeze, or substitute a guess that fits grammatically or narratively. Their mind is compensating. When writing, you might notice something subtle yet revealing. Their hand tires quickly. Their letters drift off the line. Spacing is inconsistent. Sentences may begin clearly but trail into chaos. They may speak eloquently, but when they write, it looks fragmented or simplistic, almost as if their thoughts shrink when forced into symbols. It's not that they don't have ideas. It's that the effort of forming letters consumes the mental energy required to express those ideas. In math, you might see a child who understands the concept of quantity, who knows what more or less means intuitively, yet can't remember basic arithmetic facts or gets lost in multi-step instructions. They may answer verbally more accurately than on paper. They might solve problems through intuition or estimation, but struggle when procedures come into play. They may understand time conceptually, but struggle to read a clock. They may grasp large ideas, but stumble on small symbolic steps. And then there's something emotional that happens, and this is often the clearest indicator. The child who loves learning in general may start to avoid certain tasks. They may suddenly need a bathroom break right before reading time. They may stare at the page and go quiet. They may become frustrated, tearful, or angry. They may rush through work sloppily to escape it. Or they may distract others, turning attention away from the task. Many parents misinterpret this as defiance or impulsivity, when in truth, it is avoidance driven by discomfort, fatigue, and embarrassment. Because here's a painful secret many children carry. They know they struggle. They notice that other kids finish quickly. They notice that classmates don't stumble over words. They notice that others write effortlessly. And deep down, they fear being exposed. So instead of asking for help, which would spotlight their struggle, they conceal it. They hide it in silence, in humor, in behavioral resistance, in perfectionism, in procrastination. Parents often see the outside. They're just not applying themselves. But inside, the child might be thinking, why is this so hard for me? What's wrong with me? Why does everyone else get it? And the more this internal narrative grows, the more their confidence shrinks. Teachers sometimes misunderstand, too. A child may be told they need to focus, slow down, put in effort, practice more. But a child with a learning disorder can't practice their way out of it, any more than a nearsighted child can practice their way into better vision. Practice without support becomes suffering. Many children with SLD develop extraordinary strengths in compensation: visual memory, spatial reasoning, storytelling, emotional intelligence, creativity, imagination. These strengths are often overshadowed by academic struggle, even though those strengths are where their potential truly lies. The key is noticing the pattern, not the one-off moment. Noticing the consistent mismatch between potential and performance. Noticing the repeated fatigue, avoidance, guessing, or frustration. Noticing that their thoughts seem richer than their written or symbolic output. Supporting a child with a learning difference begins with shifting the emotional environment around learning. When a child feels pressure, judgment, or comparison, their brain tightens. Learning becomes a threat. But when a child feels safety, curiosity, and partnership, their brain opens. It becomes receptive and playful. So the first step is not academic, it's emotional. It's creating a world where struggle isn't shameful, where effort is respected, where mistakes are viewed as part of growth rather than evidence of deficiency. Imagine sitting with your child during homework, not as a supervisor, but as a collaborator. Instead of saying, "You need to focus, you're not trying," you might say, "I see you're working hard. Let's figure this out together." Instead of pointing out errors with frustration, you might explore them with curiosity. The tone shifts from accusation to investigation. The child stops feeling like the problem and begins feeling like they're exploring a challenge with someone on their side. Communication with teachers is equally delicate and important. Instead of approaching them with defensiveness or fear, the best approach is partnership. Rather than "something is wrong with my child," a more empowering tone would be, "I'm noticing patterns in how my child learns, and I'd love to collaborate on supporting them." Conversations become productive rather than confrontational. When teachers experience parents as allies rather than critics, they are more likely to cooperate, observe carefully, and advocate effectively. Evaluation, too, should be approached with confidence rather than stigma. When you pursue a learning assessment, you are not setting your child on a path of limitation. You are uncovering how their brain operates. You're gathering data. You're obtaining clarity. And clarity helps both parents and educators adapt expectations, strategies, and goals. When a child finally receives a diagnosis, such as dyslexia or dysgraphia, it is often a profound relief, not a burden. Many children actually say, "So I'm not dumb, I just learn differently." That understanding can lift years of quiet self-doubt. At home, one of the greatest gifts you can offer is permission to learn in different ways. A dyslexic child may understand stories better through audiobooks or dramatization than through silent reading. A dysgraphic child may express ideas more fluently through speech-to-text or oral storytelling than through handwriting. A child with dyscalculia may grasp mathematical concepts through physical objects, movement, rhythm, or visualization rather than through symbolic computation. The goal is not to force the mainstream pathway. It is to discover the optimal pathway. And one more critical understanding: confidence nurtures competence. A child who believes they are capable will try. A child who believes they are incapable will avoid. Every moment of encouragement becomes a neurological reinforcement. Every moment of blame becomes a neurological shutdown. Picture this: a child sits down before a writing assignment. If the internal voice they've accumulated says, "I'm terrible at writing, I can't do this," their mind shuts off before the task even begins. But if the internal voice says, "I have ideas worth sharing, I'll find a way to express them," their brain engages. Your messaging becomes their inner narrative. Many parents unknowingly contribute to shame by comparing siblings or other students, by emphasizing correctness over expression, by tying self-worth to performance. But when you separate the child from the task, when you see their essence beyond their output, the child begins to differentiate themselves from their struggle. "I have trouble with writing" becomes different from "I am bad at writing." The former is a challenge. The latter is an identity, and identity shapes destiny. So the role of a parent is not merely to push through academic work. It is to protect the child's belief in themselves. It is to champion their strengths, not just remediate their weaknesses. It is to help them see that learning differences are not deficits. They are simply alternate neurological architectures. There often comes a moment for many parents when they wonder, is this just a normal struggle, or is it something deeper? And that question can feel heavy because behind it lives uncertainty, worry, and sometimes even guilt. But I want you to hear this clearly. Seeking clarity is an act of love, not fear. If you are noticing persistent challenges that don't improve with practice, challenges that remain even when your child is genuinely trying, that is a sign not of weakness or failure, but of neurological uniqueness. The process of evaluation varies from region to region, but the essence is the same everywhere. Professionals observe, test, and analyze how your child's brain handles language, memory, reading decoding, writing fluency, symbol processing, and reasoning. And when done properly, the evaluation reveals something beautiful: the child's learning profile. It doesn't just identify what they find hard, it reveals what they excel at. You begin to see a picture of their cognitive landscape, the places where information travels quickly, the places where it travels differently, and the places where it needs alternative pathways. If your child does receive a diagnosis, the most important thing you can do is frame it positively. Instead of saying, "You have a disorder," a far more empowering message is, "Your brain learns differently, and now we know how to help you." Some of the most brilliant minds in history learned differently. Many inventors, artists, scientists, entrepreneurs, architects, and visionaries have had dyslexia, dysgraphia, ADHD, or other learning differences. These differences didn't hinder them, they shaped their genius. When a child understands that their struggle has a name, something clicks inside them. They stop believing that their problem is internal, personal, or shameful. They begin to see it as external, a challenge to work with, rather than a flaw to hide. And when parents adopt this perspective, the home shifts from being a performance arena into a support system. School assignments become collaborative rather than conflictual. Mistakes become data, not failures, and growth becomes possible again. Remember also that a child's value does not begin and end in the academic arena. Your child is not defined by their reading level or their handwriting or their ability to memorize multiplication tables. They are defined by kindness, imagination, curiosity, humor, emotional intelligence, creativity, the way they think, the way they connect, the way they dream. Academics are a part of development, not the measure of the whole child. Wherever you are on this journey, just beginning to wonder, actively observing, deep into assessment, or already living with a diagnosis, I want you to know something. Your child can thrive. Their brain is capable. Their story is open. Their path may look different, but different is not lesser. It is simply different. If this video has helped you feel more informed, grounded, or hopeful, I invite you to subscribe to the Parenting Blueprint so we can continue walking this road together. And please leave a comment sharing where you are in this journey. Your words might be the lifeline another parent needs right now. As we close this chapter, let this truth settle in your heart. Your child's brain is not broken. It is brilliant in a different direction. Our job is not to force them into the standard model of learning, but to discover the way their mind learns best and to celebrate that path with unwavering support.